Namaste, my friend. I appreciate the last session we discussed in detail that the why Buddha, in spite of having all pleasures, he got awakened. And did you notice that after awakening, he went back to his his father, his wife, and the kid? So they thought as if the Buddha has returned frustrated. But ultimately, the Buddha said, okay, you follow me. Now I will show you the path to the permanent peace, happiness, love, truth, and wisdom. So we have to examine a little deeper way, in a simple and clear way. And I have created 10 stages what happened to Buddha, why he within few years he reached to the highest state. He got enlightenment. He awakened to his real nature, and we are not. So that is our topic today. But just once we complete this topic, we will take the teachings of one great master to find out what are the delusions and the impurities of the mind holding me back even after many weeks and months and years of the practice. What is holding me back? So not only we will understand what is holding us back, but then we will act on our mind, how to get rid of these delusions so that we can live a life beyond stress and suffering. But our today's lesson focus on what was going on in the mind of the Buddha, how he changed his attitude, behavior, thought, speech, and action. Entire journey, he his entire journey is a movement from the false to the real, from the ignorance to the wisdom, and from the mortality to the immortality. Our next lesson, we will find out from the next lesson, we will directly go into the teachings of this master who helps us to recognize the delusion, impurities of the mind in daily life and living, and the stress. So, the next session will focus on how to hammer the delusion by the intellect, means by the knowledge, and how to understand the unconditional love. Conditional love is attachment. So, the knowledge part demands a constant contemplation and reflection. And once the mind is pure, we have to redirect this mind to get the emotional freedom. So, we have a kind of self fulfillment. Instead of emotional dependence, we have an emotional freedom. Why you get upset? Only because of emotional dependence. Are you getting it? You're not only a seeker then, but you are committed to end the suffering from the life. Suffering from the life. So, what happens once we take up the teaching from the next session? We will pick up that what is happening in my intellect, what is happening in my attitude, behavior. Is it coming from the past impression or the impure mind? I have to drop it there and then, and I get absorbed deeper with it so that I can bring that change in the behavior, attitude, in our action, and then, but it demands listening and learning contemplation and reflection, daily examination of our thought, speech, and action. And if that takes place within few weeks, we change completely. I just gave you some idea, but don't start noticing in others that will be taken care of by the others. He doesn't, he doesn't believe me, he's criticizing me, or she is. I need not to worry about it. I have to look at myself. I have to look at myself. What is the sign of their progress? Many months ago, when you have started the journey, your anxiety used to stay for many hours. Now the anxiety comes, you understand, and it is gone. Is it not a progress? You are talking to someone, verbal argument starts. Before you continue arguing, now you stop arguing. When you see there is no end to it, you just stop and you maintain the calmness of the mind. These are the changes we should notice. If these changes are not coming, it means there is some challenges about the practice. Previously, we used to have our impulsive nature. We used to hate and react and enter into the stress, and it continued for a couple of days. But now you live into that state of the calmness because you are not expecting anything from the world outside. You have that kind of a self fulfillment. If that changes comes, obviously we have reduced, minimized the impurities of our mind. And when you minimize the impurities of your mind, the life takes the beautiful turn. You have a sense of the calmness, you have a sense of the inner joy, peace. I'm just giving you some idea what we are going to do. Then you are a great seeker. Mind is no longer busy. Why the mind is busy? The mind is outside, full of expectations, demand, craving. Why? Because of the vasanas, because of the impurities of the mind. You have everything within you. So now let us focus on today's topic, how Buddha brought tremendous change by the four incidents that took place in his life. Did I tell you that his father created a Las Vegas in the Sin City where all kinds of pleasures are within the reach of the Siddhartha, earlier name of the Buddha. And he was enjoying, he continued enjoying for 16, 17, or perhaps 18 years, if the historians are clear. So, in that Sin City, where he was getting all kinds of pleasure from the world outside, then obviously I will have lot of expectations. But by the four incidents, his mind was committed. Instead of other oriented, he became self oriented. So, what happens in our life? We always expect praise and appreciation from others, the relations. But when we are a seeker, we have appreciated the mind. Why? Mind is pure and I have calmness. I'm not seeking any appreciation, praise, reaction from anyone else. Earlier, your mind used to think, look at the person not respecting me. Now you think respect is a mental state. It has nothing to do with anyone. Do you have that attitude? If you have that attitude, who can make you stressed? Who can make you frustrated? Earlier, the mind used to jump, react, hesitate. Now, your mind does not jump outside, but reflects inside instantly. Your intention changes, behavior changes, your attitude changes. If that is happening, you are a seeker. That impurities of the mind has many. Earlier, we were stressed inside because I brought the world of relations, people, things inside. But now I live into that state of the calmness. I keep the world outside. Is it possible? Did Does it happen? You are a seeker. Then the journey is very close. Destination is very near. Earlier, the mind used to think even after the party you attended. So you return home and you started thinking of lot of the people who attended the party. You have appreciation, you have you have likes and dislikes. But now your mind targets the event while returning. Mind forgets the event while returning home. Your mind does not continue to think about that event. If that is happening, then you are a seeker. That is what happened to the Siddhartha by those four incidents we are going to understand in detail, so that you will know whether you are a seeker at par with the Siddhartha, or what are the challenges that you have. That is why I'm not giving you the practice. Please continue the practice that I gave you last time. Earlier, your mind struggles. You used to escape listening and learning, contemplation and reflection in the practice. But now, previously you escaped the practice. Now your mind reminds you. Why the mind reminds you? Now this mind has become your slave. Remember, my dear friend, mind is the worst master because it carries impulsive nature, expectations, duality, and a conflict. But mind is the best to slave. In order to make the mind slave, I have to contemplate and reflect on these principles. If you don't contemplate and reflect, the mind is not going to be slave. It will become the worst master that is responsible for all the suffering. Earlier, the mind was busy in the thought feeling that never helped or rewarded you. But now you have enough time for contemplation and reflection, and you pick up the subtle changes in your life. I just summarized what happened in the life of the Siddhartha. What bigger? What is that means? What that means? So the last session, as we discussed about the journey from a simple person, Siddhartha, to an enlightenment. So now we will understand what are those stages which were milestone in his life. Now look at I said the Sin City or the Las Vegas his father created for him, and he was forcibly put in to receive all kinds of pleasure. We are craving for pleasure from outside. Do you see the difference? Why you work, why you act, why you go to the party, why? Just to seek the pleasure, just to have the kind of self fulfillment. But Buddha was forced to have all the kinds of pleasure by his father. So our action should undergo a change. Our attitude should. So I should not attend the party. No, you should attend the party. But your intellect should be very clear. I am going to express my peace and happiness with the people. I will not going to expect anything from anyone. Do you have that resolve? You keep that resolve, meeting anyone, and tell me if you have any form of anxiety and reaction. We are running after the pleasure. That is, we are running after the pleasure. We Why? Why? Because we want to avoid, we want to escape the pain, problem, and the delusion. But Siddhartha has four incidents: sick person, dead person, old age, and a monk. His intellect realized as if when he saw the sick person and he asked the driver that, who is this? I is a sick person and your dad told me not to tell you, but now you have seen it. I cannot prevent, I cannot hold on the truth. We all are going to be sick. Why? Because the health and the sickness are the dynamic states. The sickness enters from the back door. It does not inform you that it is coming. And so the pleasure also. Now think of it. Buddha's the Siddhartha mind. Imagine that now he is sick. First he is sick. In sickness, our mind holds me back to get any kind of a pleasure. You have an extreme, for example, headache or a fever, and I ask you, let us watch some movie. You'll say, stop me. I'm not interested. So he imagined that he has become the sick, and it is very, oh, so these pleasure is not outside in the world outside. He had that realization and he stick to it. He saw the dead person and driver said, do you see horse cart driver? That's why I'm using the word driver. The driver said, ah, everyone has to meet this fate, the body has to die. So what happens when the body dies? No sense organ, no motor organs will work. So what happens? Sense organ and the motor organ with reference to the body brings all the pleasures. So all the pleasures are gone. It means the pleasure is not in the world. So I have to stop all the expectations, demand, and craving. I will not expect that anyone should appreciate me and praise me. Can you think of the Siddhartha mind? We see people are sick, and we have seen many dead people. our intellect never contemplates and reflects. We get scared, we want to avoid, we don't want to talk about the death. Sick person, dead person in the old age, again, old age. Why sense organs and motor organs become weak? Sometimes we lose the taste of his sweetness in the tongue also. We start hearing a little less. We want to hear loudly. Ah, my glasses are already there. So Siddhartha contemplated and reflected that as we age, as we become old, my goodness, as we become old, my this body and the mind has totally a different set of activities. It minimizes its efficiency and the capacity. So he realized there is nothing to expect from the world. Peace, happiness, love, truth, and wisdom, they are not found there. That was the mind and the intellect of the Siddhartha perceived the old age, sickness, and the death clearly in him. And then the fourth incident, he saw the monk, and the driver said that he is searching the truth. That is why he is meditating. Where he lives, he has no house. He is just a wandering monk. Can you imagine what happened to the mind of the Siddhartha? Wandering monk? He has no house. I have a kingly palace, and still I'm not happy. And he is a wandering man, wandering, and he is searching for. Can you think that what went on to the mind of the Siddhartha? So it means I'm heavily dependent on the pleasure, peace, happiness, love, wisdom from the others, from the world outside. No doubt we need food, safety, home. These are the physical necessity for the physical survival. But when we start seeking the pleasure, appreciation, calmness, we are seeking an advice from a person who himself and herself is suffering, and you take that advice. You carry that in your mind. You return home and you are frustrated. So, here in this case, Siddhartha started understanding the reality of the life. And when we do not understand, when we escape, then what happens? We continue to keep our fear, projection, delusion. We are constantly running into the world for the sake of peace and happiness. And the result that we get is the delusion, frustration, anger, and anxiety. So you see, the nature has programmed our life in certain areas where we cannot change. But when the mind is in delusion, reaction, agitation, seeking something from the world, that programming is disturbed. That disturbance is known as the frustration, anger, anxiety, duality, conflict. Take a couple of examples. The nature has programmed our life, waking state, sleep state, dream state, after the dream, waking state, dream, sleep, waking. This has been happening for since our birth, is it not? No, no, I did not understand. Can you sleep 24 hours? No, something triggers in me and I wake up. Can I remain awake 24 hours? No. Something triggers in my mind and I start feeling lazy and I fall into sleep. Nature's programming. Now you introduce that I have a lot of expectations from the world outside. You keep on thinking. Now you are disturbing the nature's program. You are not able to keep your mind empty before going to the sleep, so you have a sleep disturbances, you have an anxiety. Are you understanding that? So I disturb, because of the delusion, I disturb even the functioning of the nature. And this is what the impulsive mind. So animals are programmed by the nature. We are also programmed by the nature, but we perform all our actions. Animals perform all our actions based on the programming, nature. We perform all our actions not only by the nature but because of the past impressions also. We discussed in detail the vasanas. Can you can you make a distinction between the Siddhartha who passed through the four incident and his intellect was very clear? We carry forward our reaction, anxiety, duality, and a conflict. That's a big difference. That is why the Buddha changed. So we carry forward our impulsive, deluded mind. So what this impulsive mind and the deluded mind do, it forces us to do what we should not do. Are you understanding? Your mind is thinking, I was expecting appreciation from you and you are not appreciating. I should not do this. Let me have a sense of calmness inside. Thank you very much. If you have appreciated, my mind should have been dependent on you. You did not appreciate me. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So delusion starts expecting happiness, peace, love from the others. It works through our impure mind. We start complaining others, blame others, react to others every day, every hour. Then the mind is filled with these thoughts. We discussed in detail under Vasana. Imagine peace and happiness. Did you go through it? Did you contemplate and reflect? Then we have a desire, we have six enemies, and it results into the impure states of the mind. You are in stress, anxiety, reaction, frustration only because of the impure states of the mind. The Buddha, who was Siddhartha, who was given all kinds of pleasure, while looking at this four incident, his intellect got awakened. He started visualizing that real picture. We are craving for pleasure. He got all the pleasure by default. And even then his intellect could contemplate and reflect on it. And he was ready to leave the kingdom. Why he wanted to leave the kingdom? Can you think? He wanted to leave the kingdom because he knew his dad is not going to listen to him. He will force him into the same kind of a pleasure. He will not allow me to follow the path of the Eastern wisdom. his wife will not allow him to meditate. So in the midnight he left it. Now take that story in a symbolic way. Take an example in your life. You have can you recognize impure mind? Yes, I can recognize my impure mind. I have already discussed in many sessions that how my so can you recognize the impure states of the mind? Yes. If yes, then you can also move your mind towards purity by either the practice, by using the intellect, by contemplation and reflection. So you are at par with the Siddhartha. But if you forget it, then what happens? Then you write a good email to me. You must write. You have a right to write the email. Because at least you wrote to me, it proves that you are a seeker, not of that order of the Siddhartha, but you are still a seeker. Yes. So you are looking for a solution in the Eastern wisdom. That is why you wrote to me. You should write. You continue to do. And that is why I changed the last two sessions and today's session also. Now I will tell you by a story why we did not change even after many weeks, months, and years of practice, and what we should do. So the story gives you some brief idea, understanding. Pay attention. So you have to link it. That you have to link it with what? What I have been saying it. Please listen and learn. Repeat listening, contemplation and reflection, practice, apply these principles in your daily life by the thought, speech, and action in relationship. So now, did you understand? That is what I have been saying you. Now the story. A guy was intoxicated. He took a couple of bags of vodka. He was intoxicated. His home was just on the other side of the river, and it was almost a midnight, so he had to cross the river. In those days, only the boat was the means of a transport. So midnight means it is darkness. What is darkness? Ignorance. How the ignorance comes? Because of the impurities of the mind. I'm trying to help you to understand the story that we can apply in our life. So the first thing I told you, he had lot of fags of vodka, but he was himself a little bit conscious, semi-conscious, and so his mind says that I have to cross the river to reach my home, and here is the boat. I have to sail it through the river. Right? Did you understand? So you have to compare that story about your life. So he sat on the boat and he started sailing it. What do you say? Sailing it. I forget the name of that. So he started sailing from the midnight. Now it is the morning. The effect of that, if so, he had little bit hangover, but then he became conscious. The effect of that vodka has gone. It has been 5 or 6 hours. So he remembered, I have been sailing, and I remember it was a midnight. Yes, and now it is a morning, and I could not leave the bank of a river. What happened? He had a smile on his face. Why? He saw that he did not release the rope which ties the boat to the bank of a river. What is that rope? Intellectually, I understand that I need not to expect. I learnt it, I did the practice, I experienced the calmness and the peace, and now after few hours that impact is gone. I'm still tied to those impurities of the mind. I'm still tied to those expectations. Do you think that the change will come? Ask yourself. This applies to everyone in our life. But what happened to this Siddhartha? His intellect released that binding nature of the pleasure living into that sin city in his head. So he had changed his attitude inside. He did not change the world outside. Are you getting it? I'm just comparing the story. So the Siddhartha could find after seeking these three incidents, he was very much alert. Sick man, he saw the body and the mind will become sick sooner or later. It is a dynamic state. Then what his mind will do? Self discipline, dropping what is craving. So let me drop the craving now so that I will not have suffering in the future. Old age is approaching every day. That is what Siddhartha recognized by looking at this old guy. What his mind did, he thought clearly. He is now old. He thought he imagined. We project the pleasure outside. He projected that I'm already old, I cannot walk, I have to take the help of this stick. And then what to talk of their pleasure and expectations from the world? His mind was clear. His mind was not the master now. His mind has started becoming the slave. You make your mind slave, and I promise you, if you have any frustration in the future, he saw the dead man and he saw himself dead. We get scared. But the fact is that that death will definitely come to me. Without solving the puzzles of the life, I'm scared of the death. Siddhartha saw that he is already into that state. But at the same time, he saw a monk. He reached that there is a way. There is a way. I have to learn this. I have to understand this. I have to follow this path. There was a great determination. The mind has not become the master, it is not interfering. That is why I explained you step by step. There are the impurities of the mind which causes the delusion. It comes from the past impression, and the past impression pushes you to seek the same thing again and getting frustrated. Again, you are seeking the same thing, getting frustrated, seeking the same thing and getting frustrated. Siddhartha stopped once for all. Can I do that once and for all? You will know, you will know the reason. So I'm asking you, are you applying the teaching? I'm not saying just an hour of listening and learning, another 10, 15 minutes of contemplation and reflection, and then you apply those principles in your daily living. Simple. Spend 10 minutes of your time before going to sleep and when you wake up in the morning. Ask yourself how many times I got into anxiety reaction or I was frustrated. Write it down. then reflect what is the reason and the cause. You will find one or the more than one impure states of the mind is causing this trouble. So once your intellect becomes aware of the impure states of the mind, then it will realize it is happening because of the delusion. It is happening because I am searching the peace and happiness where they are not. I have to tell you something beautiful. Never forget this. Whatever the nature has programmed for us and the animals, it is repetitive in nature. We cannot be satisfied. What it means? You are hungry, you eat food. Did you eat the food once and for all? No, after a few hours again I will be hungry. So nature says, go and eat again. Do you sleep once and for all? No. I sleep, I wake up, and then again I sleep. If I don't sleep, I feel sleepy. So you see the nature, the way the nature has programmed the body mind complex, it is of a repetitive nature. You cannot say that I have eaten once and for all, I have gone to the restroom once and for all, I have slept once and for all, now there is no need to sleep. I remain awake all the time. Not possible. But what our Eastern wisdom says, when the knowledge, what we are learning, when the knowledge settled and stays in the knowledge only settles and stays in the pure mind. So when you allow the knowledge of the Eastern wisdom to stay in the mind, you don't need to do any practice. You can say bye bye to this beer guy. Did you understand? Let me open it. So now knowledge is already settled. Clear? So you are sleeping. You wake up in the morning, and the first thing that you sit down with eyes closed. Your mind is now a slave. The mind is saying, I am of the nature of peace, happiness, love, truth, and wisdom. Peace is my essential nature. You get the vibes and you experience that. When the knowledge is already settled. Now the knowledge is not settled, you wake up in the morning. Ah, yes, that crazy guy which I met yesterday, he did not even care to appreciate me, how much I have done to him. Now you see, the mind is other oriented. So because you have that thought associated with the feeling, so you have a bad morning. Sun has not done anything wrong to you, but you have a bad morning. Who is responsible for it? I'm just giving one example of the sailing the boat by the intoxicated guy, and this is another example. Now, briefly understand those 10 stages, how the Siddhartha crossed those 10 stages. First stage was the golden cage. I told you this story. His father said, oh, create a sin city and put him into the golden cage. What is the cage? Is after all the case. Whether it is made up of the gold or iron case. So I'm referring the golden case, all kinds of pleasure is there. All kinds of pleasure is there. That is the first stage in the life of the Siddhartha. We crave for the pleasure by earning wealth and working hard and doing a lot of things. But it was a golden case. Can you make a list of pain points, struggle, anxiety, at least for 4 and 5 weeks, every day before you go to sleep? Sit down, find the reason. It is always the impure mind, six enemies, and the delusion. So, in the first stage, it was a golden case, and Siddhartha forgot completely. He was totally absorbed into all kinds of pleasure. Clear? Second stage, he has four sights, four incidents. When he was walking into the, when huh? He was in his horse cart, he had four incidents. So the first stage was a golden case. Second stage of four sights, four incident, his intellect confronted with the harsh realities sparks the quest for the meaning. We try to avoid. If you're an old guy, it's better to avoid. If the guy is dead, my mind tries to escape, even though my mind knows that death is inevitable. The sickness and the health are dynamic states. Siddhartha faced that. He confronted the realities, even when he was totally absorbed into all kinds of pleasure in the first days. He he did not learn from anyone. He did not have a master until now. And I have given you all the last 10 sessions to make you aware. You have to confront the life harsh realities so that your intellect is ready to treat the path becoming a seeker. Siddhartha encountered old age, sick. I need not to. How many old people I have seen until today? How many people I have seen dead or heard the news? How many times we became sick and people became sick and died? And how many times we have heard and read about the monk and the spirituality and self discovery? What impact it has on my mind? If it is an impact, intellect is clear, I have become a great seeker, I am making the mind slave. I told you, mind is the worst master. So when you wake up in the morning and mind continues to carry all the thoughts of the others of reaction and anxiety, mind is the master. Mind has to be made slave by listening, learning, applying these principles, contemplation, reflection, and the practice. Now the third stage in the life of the Siddhartha. So you see that what do you lack in the second stage? Contemplation and reflection. Reflecting that is there any expectations from the daughter or the son? No. Intellect says to the mind, no expectations. You are already relaxed. You are not frustrated. How can I seek an advice from a person who is already frustrated? So he or she will give you an advice with an element of frustration. Thank God you wrote to me. So I have to think that how can I reach to that state of awareness in the intellect and the mind which the Siddhartha had reached in his life. So, two stages I have talked about. Now, the third stage. Third stage, you can say a great departure. He could not tell his dad, otherwise, his dad will force him to continue to stay in the palace of the pleasure. But he was contemplating and reflecting. He also recognized that he had a wife and he had a son. But then he also realized that physical pleasure with the wife and some kind of emotional relationship with the wife, but it makes me dependent on the others. So, what is the great departure? We have to take it in a symbolic way. But the real life story of the Siddhartha took place in the midnight. He looked at his wife and the son and he said goodbye, not out of frustration, out of calmness. Why he wanted to leave? One reason because of his dad, because of his wife and the son. They are not going to agree to live a life of a monk. So when you are listening and learning, contemplation and reflection, when you are doing a practice, you are already living that kind of a life. You resolve. Don't leave on a single day. Those 1 and 2 hours is the life of a monk. Work, go to hell. I am with myself. That is the third step. Can you do while living in the world? We need not to run after into the Himalayas or into the desert or the mountain. The message is clear. Message has to be clear in my head. Then what happened? The fourth one. Where is the fourth stage? The ascetic life. I'm saying an ascetic life, but you can also say that now I recognize the problem in my life. I recognize the impurities in the mind. I recognize the delusion is causing me the suffering. I have many impure states of the mind that takes over me. I need a kind of a self-discipline. That is an ascetic life that we can do at our home. He spent 6 years. I'm not saying that you sleep on the floor. I'm not saying that you take only one meal a day. I'm not saying that you do the practice for 4 hours. So he led an ascetic life. His master told him to sleep on the floor. You'll have only one meal. Mosquitoes were there. Why? When we endure these discomfort caused by the impure mind, the mind is purified. What I'm saying for you, simple, just maintain a self-discipline. You wake up in the morning, the first thing you have to listen, learn, contemplate, reflect, practice in the evening, find out how many events of anxiety, frustration, and reaction took place today, what is the reason. Can I find the reason in today's talk or the previous talk? Yes, I understand it. I'm just asking you a very little self discipline, orderliness. Mind is the master at this time and it creates a chaos and disorderliness. So, in the fourth stage, what I said about Siddhartha is the ascetic life. I'm saying is self discipline for maybe for 4 or 5 weeks. And once you do it for 5 weeks, when you wake up in the morning, your mind says, "Oh, it is. No, let me sit. Let me enjoy that peace and the calmness." You have become a great seeker. 6 years. So, what happens when you follow these self discipline? I'm not saying 6 years for you, it can happen in 4 and 5 weeks. But provided I have to follow the self discipline without missing a single day. Now, what we can say in the fifth stage, the four stages we have covered. Now, he was undergoing those austerities, or you can say he was doing all the practices, he was listening to the teacher, contemplation and reflection. He was reflecting on it. So, what happened on the reflection? What happens to our intellect on the reflection? Your intellect pushes you back. No, go to the peace, go to the happiness. Mind says go to the anxiety and reaction. Intellect says no, won't. So you see that in the beginning, this is the mind with all the impulsive nature, the impurities. And in the beginning, this is the resources. You listen and learn and forget it. You listen and learn and forget the practice. You miss it. That is what happened. But when you follow a self-discipline, now these resources are at par with the mind. So you find a balance. You find a balance. What is the balance? Anytime you are into anxiety, your intellect supports you and you get rid of it. It may take 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And then what happens? You continue the journey. Now the resources are more than the pressure. Can you tell me, will you remain into anxiety, reaction, and frustration if the resources of this knowledge is more than fifth stage, sixth stage? Then what happens in the sixth stage? It will take another 5 to 10 minutes more. So enlightenment under a Bodhi tree. So because he was reflecting, and another master went across, Alar Kalam was there, and Alar Kalam took him to a Bodhi tree because there is an emotional maturity, there is a sense of purity in the mind, and he used to experience that calmness. Why? How? Resources. Now, this intellect is the master, mind is the slave, which the master realized. He said, close your eyes, practice meditation, and his awakening took place. So it is the sixth stage. So I'm just first teaching. So before the first teaching of the Four Noble Truths, he went to the kingdom back. He talked to his father, the wife, and the son. They thought the Buddha is returning because he's already frustrated. Father said, I heard you that you were sleeping on the floor, but now I can forgive you if you join me and become the king. Buddha said, follow me. I have come here to ask you to follow me. Do you have that confidence if anyone in your relations, in their friendship, criticizes the journey of the Eastern wisdom, can you dare to say, follow me? I will show you the path of the peace and happiness. Then only I will believe you have learned for 4 years or 3 years. I'm helping your impure mind to move to the purity of the mind, to have an emotional maturity. Are you understanding? Anyhow, so the seventh stage now. In the seventh stage, two events. One is that he went back to the kingdom, he met his dad. He wanted the dad, his wife, and the son should follow what I have realized. Can you dare to say that with that force and the conviction? I coach people. From where that conviction? My master. With that conviction, I guide people. It is not the guidance in the air. It has solid principles, it has practices. We have seen thousands of people have changed. It is 10,000 years old tradition. With that conviction, I coach. So Buddha returned and then he rushed to his five friends with whom he did the austerity for 6 years. And that was the first coaching, first mentoring, first message of the Four Noble Truths he gave to his friends. With that conviction, he said, "Follow me." All the friends came with him, they became his student, and they became great monks. You have to follow with that conviction so that the more people will ask you where you have learned. I want to talk to this guy. So seventh he went to his parents, and then eighth is that he went to his all the friends, and the ninth stays. So when you reach to that state, what happens? Your intellect is constantly outpouring the thoughts of intuition, of feeling, of certain principles. Your intellect continues to live, the knowledge continues to stay in you. Who knows, you also become a teacher of the Eastern wisdom. And that is what happened in the ninth stage. He became the teacher. He taught for more than 45 years living in India while traveling. Perhaps in 45 years at that time, I would say population was hardly 4 or 5 million. It means he 45 years he traveled across the length and the breadth of India. It means he must have met each and every one at least 5 or 10 times. And he was not tired. He started living the teaching. 10 stages. 10 stages. I would urge and request you, my friend, to look at all the 10 stages. Compare the way the Siddhartha did it and the way you are doing it. Why? To improve. Look at, write down all those challenges that you still have. I will take care of it. Thank you. We'll be doing the practice next time.